I'm different than most people that are homeless. One, the van keeps me out of the wind chill, which is great. The United States refuses to spend money on these people. They should spend money on the homeless people. Welcome to the world-famous Santa Monica King Pier.
Everybody down here is not bad. There's a lot of people homeless that want to help.
I'm an addict now. It's like hell here. It's really hell.
If your sister watches this video, what message do you want to relay to her?
Yeah, I love her and this time.
The tent is not safe for a single woman. Anybody can just unzip your door and come in. And they do. And I slept in a tent. I got raped.
California spent more than $24 billion trying to solve homelessness. Yet tonight, thousands of people still sleep beneath bridges, inside broken RVs, and along sidewalks stretching across America's richest state. In Los Angeles, tent cities grow beside luxury apartments worth millions. In San Francisco, human beings sleep outside billion-dollar tech headquarters while politicians continue promising progress. And despite all the emergency programs, public speeches, and massive funding, over 30,000 more people became homeless. So where did the money go? Why does this crisis keep getting worse? And how did the wealthiest state in America become one of the clearest warnings of modern collapse? Welcome to Globe Path. Tonight, we go beyond the headlines and into the hidden reality of America's homelessness crisis, a world of rising rent, addiction, broken systems, and people fighting to survive one more night. Part 1. The state that couldn't stop the collapse. California was once sold to the world as the land of opportunity, a place where dreams could become reality. Sunshine, wealth, innovation, and endless possibilities shaped the image people saw across the globe. But tonight, another California exists beneath that dream. A California of tents stretching beneath freeways. Broken RVs parked beside luxury apartments. Entire families sleeping inside cars while billion-dollar skyscrapers rise above them. In Los Angeles, San Francisco, Oakland, and San Diego, thousands now survive without stable shelter. Sidewalks have slowly transformed into survival zones where addiction, hunger, fear, and exhaustion shape daily life. And the most shocking part is this: California did not ignore the crisis. The state spent more than $24 billion trying to fight homelessness. Emergency shelters were expanded. Hotels were converted into temporary housing. Outreach teams moved through camps offering support, food, and medical services. Politicians stood in front of cameras promising progress. Yet despite all of it, the crisis continued growing. More than 30,000 additional people became homeless. That number is not just data on a government report. It represents fathers sleeping inside vehicles, elderly workers forced onto sidewalks after rent increases destroyed their savings, mothers trying to protect children in parking lots at night. California is now facing a painful reality. The system is reacting slower than the crisis is spreading. For every person moved into shelter, another falls into homelessness somewhere else. Because the real problem is no longer temporary poverty. The real problem is that survival itself is becoming too expensive. And if the richest state in America cannot stop this collapse, what does that say about the future of the country itself? Part 2. One emergency away from the street. Most people imagine homelessness begins with bad decisions. But on California's streets, the truth is often far more terrifying. Many people living outdoors today once had stable jobs, apartments, families, and normal lives. They never imagined they would one day sleep beneath freeway bridges or inside broken vehicles. Then, one emergency changed everything. Meet Daniel, a 54-year-old construction worker from Los Angeles. For nearly 20 years, he helped build luxury apartment complexes across Southern California. Buildings with rooftop pools, private gyms, and rents higher than most workers could afford. Today, Daniel sleeps outside those same buildings. His collapse did not happen overnight. First came a back injury. Then months without stable income. Medical debt started piling up while rent prices continued rising. Soon, he was forced to choose between paying for treatment or keeping his apartment. Eventually, he lost both. Tonight, Daniel lives inside an old van parked beneath a freeway overpass. The vehicle no longer runs. During summer, the heat inside becomes unbearable. During winter, rain leaks through the roof while traffic noise echoes all night long. But Daniel says losing his apartment was not the hardest part. The hardest part, he explains, was realizing how quickly people stop seeing you as human. His story is no longer rare in California. Teachers, delivery drivers, elderly workers, veterans, and even full-time employees are increasingly falling into homelessness because wages can no longer keep pace with housing costs. In some California cities, residents now spend over half their income simply trying to survive rent payments. One missed paycheck can trigger total collapse. Homelessness is no longer affecting only society's margins. It is slowly consuming the working class itself. Part 3. Fentanyl, Fear, and the Streets That Never Sleep as Night Falls Across California's Homeless Encampments. Another crisis slowly takes control of the streets. Fentanyl, a substance so powerful that entire neighborhoods now feel trapped beneath its shadow. In parts of Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Oakland, overdose deaths have become part of everyday reality. Sirens echo through the night while human beings collapse beside sidewalks, alleyways, and tent camps hidden beneath freeway overpasses. But the deeper tragedy is this: addiction is rarely where the story begins. Most people living on these streets did not wake up one morning and choose destruction. Their collapse often started long before the drugs appeared. It started with pain, a lost job, a medical emergency, a divorce, childhood trauma never healed, or the crushing loneliness that comes when society slowly stops seeing you as human. For many homeless residents, fentanyl becomes less about pleasure and more about escape, a temporary way to silence fear, anxiety, depression, hunger, and emotional exhaustion. One outreach worker in downtown Los Angeles described it this way: people are not chasing happiness anymore. They are chasing relief from suffering. California's mental health system is now struggling under enormous pressure. Thousands living outdoors suffer from untreated schizophrenia, PTSD, bipolar disorder, and severe depression while trying to survive in environments filled with violence, theft, and constant danger. But healing becomes nearly impossible without stability. You cannot safely recover while sleeping beside crime, cold weather, and fear every night. Yet tonight, thousands are attempting exactly that. And as fentanyl spreads deeper into homeless communities, one terrifying question continues growing louder across America. Is California still fighting homelessness, or simply learning how to live beside collapse? Part 4. The billion-dollar system that keeps failing. California's homelessness crisis is no longer shocking because it exists. What shocks people now is how little seems to change despite billions of dollars being spent every single year. Over the past decade, state and local governments launched massive emergency programs designed to reduce homelessness. Temporary shelters expanded across major cities. Old hotels were purchased and converted into housing. outreach teams were sent into tent encampments offering food, medical support, and transportation services. Yet despite all these efforts, the crisis continued growing faster than the system could contain it. Critics argue California has become trapped inside an endless cycle of temporary solutions. Tents are removed from one neighborhood only to appear in another. Encampments are cleared before major events or political visits, but the suffering itself never disappears. Because homelessness is not simply a visibility problem, it is a survival problem. Housing costs continue rising faster than wages. Affordable apartments remain extremely limited. Mental health programs cannot meet demand. Addiction treatment centers remain overloaded, while thousands wait for help that may never arrive in time. In cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles, some residents now spend over 60% of their income simply trying to pay rent. One missed paycheck, one medical emergency, or one sudden job loss can push an ordinary person directly toward the street. And many Californians are beginning to ask a painful question. If $24 billion could not stop the crisis, then what exactly is broken? Because the deeper fear spreading across America is not just that homelessness exists. The deeper fear is that even the wealthiest state in the country may no longer fully control the crisis growing beneath its own cities. Part 5. The children growing up inside America's crisis. Perhaps the darkest part of California's homelessness crisis is not what it is doing to adults, but what it is doing to children. Across parking lots, motel rooms, shelters, and broken vehicles, thousands of children are growing up surrounded by instability, fear, and uncertainty. Some sleep in cars beside their parents every night before waking up early for school the next morning. Others move constantly between temporary shelters, relatives' homes, and overcrowded motel rooms where privacy no longer exists. For many families, homelessness no longer looks like sleeping directly on sidewalks. It looks hidden, quiet, invisible. Meet Sophia, a 12-year-old girl living with her mother inside an aging minivan near San Diego. Every night, they rotate between parking lots trying to avoid police attention and stay safe until morning. Her mother works part-time at a grocery store, but rising rent prices made housing impossible to afford. Despite everything, Sophia still dreams of becoming a nurse one day. She keeps her school books organized inside plastic containers stacked beside blankets and bottled water in the back seat of the van. "I just want a normal room," she quietly says. Stories like hers are becoming increasingly common across California. Teachers report students arriving exhausted after sleeping in vehicles. Community organizations struggle to provide food, hygiene products, and emotional support for families barely surviving from week to week. Because homelessness does not only take away shelter. It slowly steals stability, childhood, confidence, and hope. And when an entire generation begins growing up inside crisis conditions, the consequences can last far beyond the streets themselves. Part 6. America's future is already here. California's homelessness crisis no longer feels isolated. Similar scenes are now spreading across America. Tent cities continue growing in Seattle, Portland, Phoenix, Denver, Chicago, and New York. More people are living inside vehicles than at any other point in recent history. Working families increasingly fear they are only one emergency away from sleeping outdoors themselves, and perhaps that is why these images feel so emotionally powerful online. People do not just see homeless camps anymore. They see instability, fear, economic collapse, a future they no longer trust. America is entering a dangerous moment where housing costs rise faster than wages, medical debt destroys families financially, and loneliness, addiction, inflation, and mental health crises collide at the same time. California may simply be the first warning sign. The most painful part of this crisis is not only the suffering itself, but how normal it has started to feel. Tents become background scenery. Human beings sleeping beneath bridges become ordinary. Entire communities slowly adapt to levels of suffering that once would have shocked the nation. History shows something terrifying. Societies rarely collapse all at once. They collapse slowly, while people become emotionally used to the warning signs. Tonight, more than 180,000 homeless people remain scattered across California. Behind every statistic is a person still searching for safety, dignity, and one reason to keep fighting. Because no human being dreams of growing old on a sidewalk. And no nation can call itself strong while thousands survive without shelter beneath its wealthiest cities. Part 7. Can California still be saved? California's homelessness crisis is no longer just a political debate. It has become a test of what kind of society America wants to become. Because behind every tent, every sidewalk camp, and every person sleeping inside a vehicle is a human life still fighting to survive. The truth is, most homeless people do not want pity. They want stability, safety, dignity, and a real chance to rebuild their lives before the streets destroy them completely. Across California, small community groups and volunteers continue stepping into places where broken systems often fail. Churches distribute food late into the night. Outreach workers move through dangerous encampments checking on overdose victims. Volunteers hand out blankets, hygiene kits, and water during extreme heat waves. Some organizations are experimenting with tiny home communities, mental health recovery programs, and long-term housing projects designed to give people more than temporary shelter. Because experts increasingly agree on one painful reality. Homelessness cannot be solved by simply removing tents from public view. Real recovery requires stable housing, addiction treatment, mental health care, job support, and human connection working together at the same time. But every year the crisis grows larger. Housing becomes more expensive. More families fall behind financially. More people lose hope before help ever reaches them. And California now stands at a dangerous crossroads. One path leads toward deeper inequality, growing instability, and entire cities emotionally adapting to mass homelessness as a permanent reality. The other path requires something much harder. Long-term solutions, accountability, compassion, and the willingness to treat homeless people not as problems to hide, but as human beings worth saving. Because the future of California may depend on whether society still believes every human life matters, even after everything has fallen apart. Part 8. The moment America stops looking away, ending $24 billion. More than 180,000 homeless people, and over 30,000 additional lives pushed into homelessness while the system struggled to contain the crisis. Behind every number is a person still searching for warmth, safety, dignity, and one reason to keep fighting through another night. The tragedy of California is not simply that homelessness exists. The real tragedy is how normal it has started to feel. Tents become background scenery. Human suffering becomes invisible. Entire communities slowly learn how to walk past pain without stopping to look. And history shows something dangerous. Societies do not collapse the moment people begin suffering. They collapse the moment suffering becomes ordinary. Tonight, somewhere across California, a child is sleeping inside a car. A veteran is trying to survive another cold night beneath a freeway. A mother is wondering how much longer her family can stay together before everything falls apart completely. These are not strangers separated from society. They are part of it. Because homelessness is no longer only about poverty. It is about fear. Fear that millions of ordinary people now feel when they realize how quickly stability can disappear. California may be the warning sign today, but the deeper question is whether America is willing to listen before this crisis spreads even further. This is GlobePath. If these stories matter to you, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, because every view helps keep these realities visible in a world that too often looks away. And maybe the first step toward fixing a crisis this large is refusing to pretend it no longer exists.